Okay, Mom, here we go.
Here we go.
We're gonna act natural.
Oh, yes. That's really easy. Okay. There was a way that I didn't realize that I had influenced you because defensively, probably. I tried to pull away from the whole thing. I mean, I was rejected, right? So there's a way that, I moved on to the rest of my life. I admired what you were doing. I admired that you were able to do it, what I had not been able to do. But there's a way that it wasn't really present to me, that I had influenced you. There's a way that I think I distanced from my own identification as an artist. But the more we have talked about it, the more we have spent time together that we hadn't been spending for a long time, the more it was important for me, for us to be together physically in these objects and show them together.
So what's the title about, Mom?
Via Crucis is, it's about the Stations of the Cross in the Catholic Church. And at the fourth station of the cross, the mother meets Jesus, who's walking towards his crucifixion, basically. And so there's a moment of intensity there, where here we see the mother in the dark and yellow, and then the Son, Jesus, facing. So it's like the whole image is compressed. And because of the intensity of the colors, it moves out some, but it's still that kind of intense connection that's between the two figures. And that was the intent of it. I actually started painting at a painting class in my Catholic school after school hours. We were copying paintings like Corot, like landscapes. And then at home, I would try to do my own from my surrounding. But I was very disappointed because the colors, they look so garish, my colors, compared to the muted sort of European oil paintings.
Because you were in Puerto Rico, you were in San Juan, and so the colors were...
The colors were intense, like my paintings now. Well, not that intense, but certainly very strong colors, like oranges and reds. I remember a lot of oranges and reds.
Well, and then I know you studied art history at Wellesley as an undergraduate, and then you went to Paris to study sculpture.
Yes.
But when you really started focusing on painting, that was like when you got to New York in 1954, and you took classes at the Art Students League.
Yes.
And it was the heyday of abstract expressionism.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, color, there I could just do. And I was doing life drawing as well. And then from there, I went to Montana. And then, I was so influenced by the spaciousness. It's like, okay, I go from New York to Montana. It's like, oh my God. It reminded me of the ocean, actually, because it's so spacious. We moved into Billings, and I started connecting with a small art community there. And then we moved to the West Coast, Berkeley, basically. We moved to Berkeley.
In 1967, right after the Summer of Love.
Yes.
So it was things were pretty hot.
Very intense, and the social freedom, and it really hit us like a ton of bricks. I mean, the family hardly could hold together, but the freedom to try different things was definitely there.
And this is the one that gets all the
attention, right?
All the attention. And this was the third series of these that you did, because first you did the heads.
The heads first.
Then you did the men and women, and then you did a series of paintings with just women.
Yeah.
So that was the last series that you did.
Yes. And this one is, I think, the most complex one. I mean, you can tell that they come from drawings a lot, from life drawing. It's like I combine them, and then the color always came last.
But this also, when you get into this figure, the drawing here, I mean, you read it as a figure, but when you start looking at these lines, it's like they're so abstracted, but it makes it work, which is just a testament to how skilled you are with drawing the figure. So, Mom, I mean, I think you stopped, I mean, in my mind, the date is 1970, but you were saying maybe it was even 69 that you stopped painting.
Yes. For a long, long time, I've been sort of speculating about how come. This was the most important thing besides the family. And all of a sudden, I stopped. Okay. Many circumstances. I think there were tensions in my relationship that were getting more intensified when we moved to Berkeley, because there was a lot of social change. And I had become more aware of my attraction to women. And that was a factor.
Which is reflected, I think, in the women's series.
Definitely, yes. I knew that I needed to explore that more.
But the thing that I grew up with, understanding, and that you've talked about quite a bit, I think, is the disappointment that you were rejected.
I tried to exhibit. I contacted galleries myself, and nobody was interested. Here I was. I mean, I had no art community. I knew nobody. We had just arrived. Here's a woman who's a painter who has 5 kids working in my garage, kids around, and from Puerto Rico, woman of color. So I think all these things were factors.
Yeah.
So that was a big disappointment. And then following that, the final blow is there was a wide open exhibit in San Francisco. Anybody could apply. I applied, they wouldn't take me. So when I heard from you, I guess, that you were doing figures, I thought, oh my goodness. Because I knew you had done way early on when you were still, in Berkeley. You had done some clay, so I was very surprised. So how did you come to do those?
I mean, I started out wanting to be a sculptor when I applied to art school, but decided to become a conceptual artist.
Excuse me, are any of you waiting for Andrea Fraser's museum tour? Welcome to the Wadsworth. You are? Well, good. I'm Andrea Fraser, and welcome to the Wadsworth.
There are a lot of reasons that I was drawn to conceptual art and to what I then became quite committed to, which was institutional critique.
A work of astonishing economy and monumentality, it boldly contrasts with the severe and highly stylized productions of this form.
But I also did think about your situation of having made all of these artworks. I mean, you made like 200 paintings that nobody wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna cry. And then you like end up having to store, for 50 years, and it just becomes just stuff. And I did think about that. It's like, well, I don't want to make all of this stuff, that I'll have to then take care of, deal with, potentially forever. So that was part of the attraction of conceptual art. But also, I definitely I absorbed, I think, your ambition and your belief in art.
Yes.
Your sort of, relationship to art history of wanting to be a part of it. And at the same time, I knew that world, the art world, those institutions, that history sort of rejected you and hurt you.
Yes.
So I stopped making things, as an artist, although I continued to make things because, I like to make things and I'm very
Yes, very handy.
I'm very handy. I'm very good with my hands, but also I'm known for being very critical of the art market and for examining these questions about value and why and how art is valued and what are the kind of conditions for this extraordinary valuation of artworks. That you can think about value in terms of financial value and market value, but then there are these other dimensions that I think are also very central to art that have to do with how culture is valued and how different cultures are valued. And how different artists are valued. Artists with different identities, artists with different backgrounds are valued.
Right.
And how personal and intimate that is.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe one of the things that I'm most famous for as an artist is a piece called Untitled that I did in 2003 that involved creating a video in which I was having sex with an art collector who earlier in that day bought the video that he was then producing with me. And that's a work that for me really got at this intimate entanglement, you know, between market valuation, financial valuation, and a very personal sense of value that also is, you know, is very particular to women. So that work captured a lot of that in ways that were, I think, compelling to a lot of people and also very fraught for me.
Yeah. Oh, I imagine.
And not long after that, doing that work, I decided that I did not want to participate in the art market. I decided, actually around the last time that I was in the Biennial in 2012, that I would sell my work to museums, but not to individuals because it didn't make sense to me. And then I think around the time that I was thinking of doing this show in Paris where I was going to show the video of Untitled, I was thinking, well, so I had decided to go back to work with an art gallery and actually to work with a very prominent art gallery. And I was thinking, well, so why did I decide to do that? You know, what is it that I want? Do I want the money? I have a good job. You know, I don't need to sell my work. That's why I started teaching partly. So what do I want out of working with this gallery? So I was thinking about that. I mean, I could do another critique of the art market, but here I am, I'm in it. So let's be honest here. What is this about? And so I did start to think about, you know, as I was approaching 60 with 40 years of work.
Wow.
That to make things that are wanted and cared for and valued, you know, the way that artworks are and nothing else in the world is something very special, you know, that I had given up on and rejected. And thought, well, maybe there's something in that I, you know, that I want. And then I started to think about, well, where does that desire come from? You know, like where does it live in a person? Well, it lives in these first few years of life. And in these early relationships to primary caregivers like mothers and fathers. And you want to be valued and you want to be cared for and you want all the attention. So that's when I thought about making these sculptures. As a conceptual artist, I conceived these sculptures as allegorical figures of art objects.
Okay.
So they're figurative representations of 2-year-olds, but for me, they're allegorical figures of art objects and of the kinds of emotional and interpersonal things that I think art objects hold.
Okay.
So, you know, the desire for attention, for care, to be valued, to be sort of held, you know. And so these are also sort of potentially like the offspring
Yes.
of the sex with the collector, right?
The proportions are amazing and the postures and everything. It's just, you know what, I'm very fond of the hands, little hands and the feet. The hands and the feet and the bellies, the little bellies.
Well,
it draws a very sort of nurturing feeling in me. I mean, obviously, and I had five of you. I mean, not of you, but of my kids. You were the youngest one of the 5, and then I adopted another one later. But I have a very sort of maternal feeling towards these. I think I've tried to tell you, as important as exhibiting, to reestablish this connection, which is actually a connection in art. It's a familial connection, yes, that we have reestablished, but it's a connection in art. And the fact that we're exhibiting together is so special to me because we have reconnected in a very complete way, both in art and personally. And I feel so taken care of by you, speaking about caring. The whole aspect of that you wanted to show my paintings has been
To get them shown.
amazing. So seeing them together, that almost makes me cry.
Well, it's about time.
Well, you know,
What I realized too, Mom, is that since I started out as a teenager, in fact, really my project is to understand what art is and what is it? You know, what is it to be an artist? What is art? Why is it so valued? You know, what does it mean to people?
mm-hmm.
You know, that in fact, that's what I've been doing for the last 40 years. You know, whether it's as an artist, as a professor, trying to understand what art is sort of sociologically, psychologically, the economics of it. And I do think that that has to do with wanting to understand what this thing was that was so important to you.
Yes, 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 yes.